if you look at the definition of competency out there in the world, one of the things you notice is it's good enough. It's not outstanding. It's not excellent. It's just good enough to get the job done.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach podcast, helping appraisers increase their efficiency, quality, and make more money. Here's the guy who makes it his life's mission to create value for real estate appraisers nationwide. Your host and the Appraiser Coach, Dustin Harris.
Welcome, everybody, to the Appraiser Coach podcast. My name is Dustin Harris, and with me, as I have frequently, a good friend of mine, Mr. Tim Andersen, the Appraiser's Advocate. Welcome back, Tim.
Dustin, thank you. I appreciate it. It is good to be with you, good to be with your listeners, and please let me extend my best to your family.
Likewise, my friend. I appreciate you coming on. Of course, Tim is steeped in many things, expert on the appraisal side of things, but one of the things that we go to him frequently on is USPAP content. And today, Tim, I want to talk about competency. This is something that comes up frequently.
Nobody wants to talk about competency.
You know, we hear this a lot. So people talk about, well, people talk about going to a new area, and they'll jump on these Facebook forums and say, well, do you have geographic competency? Or they'll talk about, I'm going to start adding manufactured homes to my repertoire. And people say, well, do you have competency in that? Sometimes we get a little uppity as appraisers with other appraisers who are doing things that we may not see as being right. But let's just start with this, Tim. General question. If competency is so important, why doesn't USPAP define it?
And Dustin, believe me, I have put that question to a number of folks who over the years have been on the ASB, and it always starts out with, but basically what it comes down to is, well, other than the microphone being in the way, basically what it comes down to is competency in the context of real estate appraisal is no difference than competency in the area of owning an accounting business or being a plumber, or being a real estate broker, whatever. In other words, it comes down to you got to have all your stuff in one bag, and you got to know where the bag is.
Okay.
So the point is, if you look at the definition of competency out there in the world, one of the things you notice is it's good enough. It's not outstanding. It's not excellent. It's just good enough to get the job done. A friend of mine was a carpenter for many years, and he'd, the old adage, you measure twice to cut once. And he figured, I measured twice to cut once, and even if I get it wrong, that's still good enough for government work. So
my dad would say.
Competence does not mean outstanding. It does not mean excellence. It does not mean exemplar. It just means good enough. So USPAP doesn't really hold us to an incredibly high standard. It holds us to a standard of good enough. Now, one description of competency in the context of real estate appraisal is knowing what to do in any given appraisal situation and then executing on that knowledge credibly. So what this means is, competency means, okay, yes, you know how to appraise in Ryrie, Idaho. Okay, you're competent to do that. I'm not. I could not come into Ryrie, Idaho and appraise property. I'd have to get with you first because you're competent.
Put a pin in that because I want to circle back, but continue.
Okay, all right, thank you. But what I'm trying to say is competency is more than merely knowing an area. And sometimes that's going to take a long time. Sometimes that's going to take a relatively short amount of time. But one of the areas that I see as I look at the appraisals that are given to me to review either by state appraisal boards or by the appraisers who are up before state appraisal boards, is the appraiser may be pretty good at choosing comps, and the appraiser may be pretty good at describing the neighborhood, for example. But yet the appraiser is not very good at all in describing the analyses it was necessary to go through to choose those comps. That's part of competency. When you go to the doctor and you sneeze and you have a fever and you just feel icky poo, the doctor doesn't say, "Oh, okay, why don't we look for rabies?" No, the doctor says, "Let's look for a cold," because that's what it looks like. Okay. So for the doctor to say, "Oh, okay, it's rabies," may be true, but it's probably not.
Right.
So if the doctor were to start treating you for rabies, that would be one sign of incompetency.
Got it.
So when the appraiser, for example, doesn't know how to describe the highest and best use process, doesn't understand the four components of highest and best use, doesn't understand that they're an eliminatory process. You start out with a whole bunch of stuff and you end up with one thing, the highest and best use. There aren't any other. Okay. It's not, well, the highest and best use is an A or a B or a C.
Right.
It's an A, period, or it's a B, period, or it's a C, period. And you arrive at that conclusion because that's what the market told you was the highest and best use.
Right.
Now, part of the limitations under which we work is we don't have a lot of data a lot of the time, or we do have a lot of data, but it does not necessarily speak in one voice. Same language
It's all
for
over
that.
the place.
Yeah, it's all over the place. So therefore, part of competency is taking this assignment and first of all, deciding, is this an assignment I want? And if not, either become competent, and we won't go through the steps, but either become competent or, and this is probably the easier step, walk away.
Mm-hmm.
Because the crummy $450 or $500 fee that you're going to get paid isn't going to compensate you one dime if you get hauled up before the state.
Right.
You have to hire an expert, a USPAP expert, and an attorney, and a few other folks. And it becomes really easy to drop $3,500 to $5,000.
Can I tattle on you a little bit, Tim?
Paddle away.
I gave Tim a call a couple of weeks ago. I had just finished an hour and a half appointment that was, by the way, an hour one way. So count all of that up. So hour and a half inspection. And I'm not going to go into detail why, but it was vacant. There was nobody there. It took me an hour and a half to inspect this property. And then you've got 2 hours of travel time. And on my way back to the office, I called Tim and I said, Tim, I think I'm out of my depth here, but I need a confirmation. One of the things, I'll be honest with you, Tim, and you know this, one of the things that was, I knew the answer. I knew that I was not competent to do this particular order, but that $1,200 fee, damn, that sure spoke loudly, right, in my ears.
That was sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't remember your exact words, but it was something to the effect of, $1,200 is not worth the, the orange jumpsuit that you might be in down there. Not that we were to that level. I don't think you said that. But my point is, $1,200, folks, is not worth the hassle of dealing with something when you get outside your depth.
And it's really easy to get outside your depth. So when we talk about competency, it's perfectly okay to say, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
Now you go into your doctor and the doctor says, well, we looked at everything is pretty good, but you got something here on the back of your shoulder that concerns me. You need to go see a dermatologist. And you go, well, why? You're a doctor. And they say, well, because I'm a general practitioner, I'm not a dermatologist.
Right.
And you want to go to someone who is experienced, who is competent to diagnose if that's just a big ass mole or you've got some kind of carcinoma. So you go to the doctor, and the doctor goes, yeah, it's carcinoma, The doctor freezes it and cuts it out, and 30 minutes later you go home and you're cancer free. But the point is, yes, they were both doctors without question, but one was competent to diagnose the issue and treat it. The other one wasn't. And we have to understand that when clients come to us and say, I need an appraisal, when we enthusiastically run up to them and say, oh, sure, we'll be happy to do that, and we'll jump all over it, and we'll give you a nice appraisal report, and we'll put you on our Christmas card list, and blah, 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 then the appraiser, or excuse me, the client is saying, oh, okay, well, then Dustin knows his stuff. And if Dustin is just doing his best to hide that he doesn't know his stuff, then Dustin is doing nobody any favors. He's not giving the public reason to trust us.
Mm-hmm.
He's painting the rest of us in a bad light. And then the appraiser is not doing the client any good. And if you're not doing the client any good, why in the world did you take the assignment?
Yeah, for sure. Tim, when we come back, I want to circle back to this idea of, you use the analogy of the doctor, and I've got a question with regard to, and I'll just give you a little hint with regard to telemedicine and how it relates to appraisers and maybe long distance appraising. But first, I want to pause, remind you of a couple of great companies. By the way, folks, if you've heard of True Footage, and if you go to True Footage /tech, you can learn more about TrueTracks. But folks, TrueTracks has changed a great deal in just the last couple of weeks. If you've not checked out the new TrueTracks, you need to. Again, it's truefootage.tech/tools. Speaking of competency, folks, this allows you to look at data in a whole new way. It is truefootage.tech/tools, and the software that you're looking for is TrueTracks. OREP Insurance, of course, has been a sponsor of this program for many years for good reason. Folks, I don't sponsor anything that I don't use and that I don't love. And I know E&O, really, you love insurance, Dustin? Yeah, I do, because I know they have my back, and I know they have got all kinds of benefits, including free CE, right, ongoing, that you can take every year just for being a member of OREP. Folks, you will find these benefits nowhere else. Check them out by going to orep.org. One more time, it's orep.org. And finally, folks, we are sponsored by True Home Tracker. True Home Tracker, folks, is not a replacement for ANOW. It is a replacement for your business systems, including your order management. It is everything and more. You talk about utilizing technology to allow you to do more, to allow you to be more successful, to allow you to focus on what seat on the bus you should be sitting in, which is the appraiser, and allow the business to run itself. Folks, that's what True Home Tracker will do for you. You can find out more by going to my website, TheAppraiserCoach.com, click on products, and scroll to the bottom. You're looking for the True Home Tracker. All right, friends, welcome back to the program. My good friend, Mr. Tim Andersen. We're talking competency today, and I can't think of anybody more competent to be my guest than Mr. Tim Andersen. Welcome back, friend.
Yes, and thank you. I appreciate that. That's very thoughtful.
Well, speaking of competency, let's take just a moment to talk a little bit about what you do, because you help appraisers to become more competent. We talk a lot about how you help appraisers once they get in trouble with the state, but I think that you would say that prevention is much better than than trying to defend later on. So, talk to us about what you do for appraisers, what service you provide before they get that damn letter.
Before they get that damn letter, yeah, that's when all this should happen. Dustin, yeah, I work with appraisers. I ask them to send me their reports. It's not a violation of confidentiality, simply because I'm helping you, the appraiser. And then I will go over your report. I show you the good parts, show you the parts you need to work on, and make some suggestions. I do use AI. I also use my nearly 40 years experience in my education. And one of the things that I found is most appraisers know how to get to where they want to go. Mm-hmm. The problem they have is they don't explain the trip well. And now where I am, okay, if I want to get to Ryrie, Idaho, where you are, I have to head northwest. Well, Okay, I could get on the road and point my car northwest and start driving, but it probably would be a whole lot easier if I had a map.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things I try to do is give appraisers a map, not a template. I'm not going to write their reports. That's not the point. But understand that in the typical appraisal, there's way too much boilerplate. There's way too much dependence on templates. There's way too much dependence on, well, this is the way I've always done it.
I want to focus on a question that is not, it seems like an easy answer. If I ask the question outright, it would be an easy answer, but I'm gonna bias the question first by giving a little bit of background. If you, using your analogy, Tim, and going back to this idea of competency, if you were to ask any doctor 15 years ago if they believed that they could never physically be in the same room as a patient and diagnose and prescribe and give advice and be competent in that process. I think 15 years ago, every doctor would say you're crazy, right? I've got to see, feel, stick that tongue depressor in the throat and have you say ah. I've got to do all of that before I can competently, come up with a diagnosis. Let's now transition to appraisers. Tim, my question for you, with AI, with data, with these tools that are out there, is it possible that an appraiser could be competent in an area geographically rather, that they've never been to?
Yes,
All right, cool.
without question.
Okay, because you said earlier, you said I'm not competent in Ryrie, and I don't. And maybe I put this next sentence in my head. You may not have said this, but what went through my head is maybe I've never been to Ryrie. I got to go and check it out and learn it. And the reason I ask a question, Tim, is I know of appraisers who are doing this. I know of appraisers that have licenses in other states that they've never been to, that they are quote unquote competently, in their words, not mine, competently appraising.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's possible. Depending now, if you're going to, Mule Mucus, Montana, maybe not. But if you're going
A
to,
beautiful place,
by the way, yeah,
a little slippery.
especially during the winter. Um, but if you're going to Manhattan, okay, you can probably get all the data you need by taking 3 brokers to lunch. So it just depends.
Right.
And how badly do you want to become competent?
Hmm.
If you're going to go there once, maybe the best thing you can do is hire a local broker. Okay. But if that's where you're going to expand your business, then you're going to have to come to know it.
Hmm.
And therefore, you're going to have to join the MLS, and you're going to have to go to the brokers' luncheons, and you're going to have to sponsor lunch and learns, and you're going to have to get your hand slapped a couple of times. But yeah, you'll learn it eventually.
Yeah.
But the point is, you won't learn it unless you choose to. So, let's face it, a house is a house. Uh, uh, plumbing supplies, with exceptions of places like Alaska and Hawaii where it has to be brought in, don't vary that much across the country. Okay, so construction is not that horribly different. Quality of construction is, obviously.
Sure.
But a sheet of drywall is a sheet of drywall. It doesn't vary that much around the country. The issue is, of course, the underlying land value. The issue is of course, supply and demand for property in the neighborhood.
Which can be obtained from data, right? Or it could be deciphered from data. Yeah.
Yeah, or I call you up and say, Dustin, I'm going to take you to lunch. I'm going to ask you 10 questions. Here, and I email you the 10 questions. And then we meet for lunch and you give me the answers.
Right.
Okay. So is competency important? Yes, without question. Is geographic competence important? Yes, without question. Is it the only area in which appraisers must show competency? No, it's not. And competency goes much deeper than knowing the market. It's knowing when to choose when to choose a comp. And I can't tell you how many appraisals I've seen with comps literally 100% bigger than the subject. Okay, why? Well, because it was close by and it closed last Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay, that may give you an indication of what that end of the market sold for, but you're not dealing with that end of the market.
Right, right.
With a different end of the market. So that is competency as well. And then, Dustin, I get phone calls all the time. Where does USPAP tell me how to make a time adjustment? Well, that screams incompetency.
Right.
Because USPAP doesn't tell you how to make an adjustment. USPAP Standard 1 and Standard 2 does not use the word adjustment, or anything like that. You don't see you don't hear of the concept of adjustments in USPAP until AO 13, if I recall correctly. So to say, well, where does USPAP tell me how to appraise an ADU? Where does USPAP tell me how to make a size adjustment? Where does USPAP tell me what to put in the letter of transmittal? It doesn't. And that's incompetency, because those appraisers don't know that.
Speaking of knowing that, and speaking of learning more and being taught by an expert, Tim, how do appraisers get a hold of you if they want to utilize the service that you talked about earlier and give you some reports and get some feedback?
Dustin, thank you. My email address is tim@theappraisersadvocate.com, and I will be happy to consult with anybody. We can do pure consulting, which admittedly is expensive. But we can do tutoring, we can do short-term tutoring, we can do long-term tutoring. I will be happy to do whatever is necessary to help the appraiser overcome whatever shortcomings he or she feels.
Or may not feel. As one who has utilized your services, I became aware of many things that I just did not know until you pointed them out. So thank you, Tim, for that. And thank you for serving appraisers. Thank you for being here, folks. As always, Tim, let's do it again, my friend, very soon.
I look forward to it, Dustin. Thank you.
And everybody, go create some value.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit TheAppraiserCoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.